And I have sketched these more clearly now so that I won't make very obvious mistakes. Anyway, please don't focus on the quality of my artwork. I mean, don't be focusing on how it will look like, but rather focus on how the paints will move, how the paints will mix, how the paints react on paper, etc. I do not intend to do an exhibition in my sample paintings because I do this very quickly. I do this 15 to 20 minutes, 30 minutes maximum. Hello guys, this is again Allan and welcome back to my watercolor channel. Today here in the Philippines, we are now on our 27th week of the quarantine, so I'm praying that you guys are all safe, sound and healthy at the comfort of your homes. Today we are gonna be reviewing another watercolor brand. This brand is very much requested because it's very much affordable and available, at least here in the Philippines. This is no other than the Basics Watercolors by Magi-Wap. I got my set at the physical store of Art Bar Philippines for 242 Philippine pesos or roughly $5 US. You can also find these exact same set at some online shops like Lazada Philippines and Shopee Philippines at a much higher price that starts at 350 Philippine pesos. Of course, you need to pay a bit higher for the convenience of buying online. This set was also available before at Amazon US, but it's currently out of stock now. Anyway, I'll be putting the link at the description box in case they replenish their stocks. This set is also available at eBay, Ireland, and the 12 color set costs €6 or 5.6 pounds. According to their website, Magi-Wap is the top 1 painting color manufacturer and top 1 exporter of painting colors located in Guangzhou City, China, founded by Mr. Xi Shu-Qin in 2003. With the continuous effort of all 500 employees, Magi-Wap grows fastly and stably. The company's main products are professional paints, leisure paints, and toy paints for children. The company's products have obtained the ASTM D-4236 standard certification from the American Material Testing Association, the AP certification from the American Painting and Process Materials Association, and the European EN 71-9 CE and ISO 9001:2000 certifications. I think that makes me feel relieved by those standards that they are able to certify in their line. However, up until today, I have not seen yet their artist grade paints, so if ever you find any information about stores or online shops that sell the professional grade paints from Magi-Wap, please don't hesitate to share it with us through the comments section. Unfortunately, we cannot find this exact same set in their website, but if you look closely and zoom in their banner image, which is a world map, you will find there these exact same tubes. Now let's review the box. So of course in front we will find here the brand name, but for some reason they have written here MBGI-WAP instead of Magi-Wap. I don't know if B means something or if this is typo error. Anyway, it's also written here Basics Watercolor Set, so this is their line name, and it says here 18 tubes, 12 ml, and here's a preview on how the tubes look like. And here you'll find a big W, which is like their symbol for watercolor line, and they also used this in their Art Rangers watercolor line, which is also from Magi-Wap. We reviewed Art Rangers 2 months ago, and we are gonna have a quick comparison later on. On this side, we have here the logo of MBGI-WAP again here. So here MBGI-WAP, I think, yeah, this is correct. It just means something aside from MAGI. I don't know. If you have any information, please share it with us. And on this side, yeah, the same information. And at the bottom, the code of this unit. And at the back, you'll find here the distributor in the Philippines, which is M. Enriquez Art Supply. And I checked the website of M. Enriquez, and it was kind of weird because this set is 297 Philippine pesos. So it's more expensive in their website than in Art Bar for some reason. And on this side, they have some notes that are very similar or the same with the Art Rangers notes. Anyway, we are going to be reading it also. Magi-Wap watercolor paints are made from high quality pigments and natural plant gum with advanced technology. Versatile colors with strong liquidity, vivid and transparent, little perceptible wet to dry color shift. Intermixable to create any color you want, diluted with water in certain degree can help to achieve special transparency. Suitable for beginners or students from primary and high schools. So they are able to clarify and emphasize that this line is meant for high schools or for school kids. So here are the certification logos, and of course this is the price, $242 as of September 2020, and it says here made in China under strict supervision of Magi-Wap. So here it's Magi-Wap, no lead contained, non-toxic, so this is safe. Here are the colors that are included in this set. So I think we're ready to open our box. It looks very presentable and they look all very full. And as you can see, the set is still wrapped in plastic. So let's remove the plastic. Be careful whenever using cutters or knife. And this is just so satisfying to do. So here now are our tubes. So let's get our Art Ranger set and compare quickly. The first difference that I'm able to spot is that the Basics tubes are made out of aluminum while the Art Rangers are made out of plastic. In both tube paints, you'll see that there are no any other information aside from the color name, the medium type, and the color names in different languages, and of course 12 ml. You cannot find here the brand name and the line name and also the logo. I think they intently did that for them to be able to sell their paints for rebranding. The Basics watercolor set is placed in a flimsy plastic tray, but it's fine because the main box is sturdy enough to hold the paints. I'm not happy with the arrangement of the colors, so I'm gonna be adjusting this based on my preference. I think it's also interesting to compare our Basics 12 ml tubes with the other sizes of tubes that we have. So let's begin with the Daniel Smith's 5 ml tube, the Sennelier's 10 ml tube, the My Mary Blue's 12 ml tube, so these two are of the same size. And of course we have a 15 ml tube from Mgram, and lastly a 20 ml tube from Sennelier. So now we have discovered that the tubes of Basics are not yet opened or does not have holes yet, and for that we can use the caps to make holes in our tubes. In doing this, please be careful. You might want to get your palettes or half pans ready in case the paints overflow. So the paints are safe and it does not overflow. So let's do this for the rest of our paints. So now for our sample painting and swatches, I'm gonna be using, of course, as always, Arches 185 cold pressed cotton paper, and for the brushes, I'm gonna be using my Rembrandt size 4 red sable brush and my silver black velvet 1/4 inch flat brush. And before we start, I'd like to dot down our paints so that we are gonna be faster later on. So I'm happy that there's no binder pigment separation so far. So now in Gamboge we have the binder pigment separation issue. In Rose Red we have again another binder pigment separation issue. So what I do in this situation is that I shake the tube very well. Or you may also use a needle or a pin to mix the paints from the inside. Since the brand is very vocal and transparent that their paints are meant for kids and school use, and also they did not provide light fastness and pigment information, we are gonna be setting aside our technical expectations on that matter and just be focusing on the performance of the paints as kids paints. So now let's begin with white. Of course, this is very opaque. Next we have lemon yellow. Next we have gamboge. And this is their orange yellow. Next we have vermilion. And last, in the last line, is the crimson red. The colors in our first line are okay, they're vibrant, but also they're on the opaque side. So let's see if they stay opaque after they dry. Here we have rose red. Next is violet. Next is ultramarine blue. And this version is really deep. Next we have Prussian blue. This color is really beautiful, but I think it is not Prussian blue. It leans towards turquoise. Next is cerulean blue, which I misspelled. I'm sorry for that. Of course, this is not the real cerulean pigment. They mixed here white with blue and green, so this is nearly a teal color. Next is deep green. I think this is phthalo green mixed with a brown or a earthy yellow color. Next is light green. By the way, the colors in our second line are, I think, better than the first because most of them are on the transparent side. I think the only one here that's opaque or semi-opaque is the cerulean blue, and that is understandable because it is mixed with a white pigment. Next is grass green. So this is like their sap green. Next is yellow ochre. And we expect this, of course, to be opaque. And of course, this is their burnt sienna. I love their burnt sienna. It's very natural and transparent. Next is burnt umber. Next is black. And surprisingly, the black is really deep and it seems very pigmented, unlike the other colors. So for the third line, some of them or half of them are on the opaque side, while half are, I think, transparent. Now let's wait for our colors to dry before we do our more in-depth review on these. And while waiting for it to dry, let's proceed to our sample painting. I do not have precise references for our sample painting. I use both my imagination and the images that I remember seeing in the past. So yeah, it's a mix of both. And I have sketched these more clearly now so that I won't make very obvious mistakes. Anyway, please don't focus on the quality of my artwork. I mean, don't be focusing on how it will look like, but rather focus on how the paints will move, how the paints will mix, how the paints react on paper, etc. And I do not intend to do an exhibition in my sample paintings because I do this very quickly. I do this 15 to 20 minutes, 30 minutes maximum. If you want to check out my tutorial paintings, I have a separate playlist for my tutorial videos, and those are more detailed than this. Although my main style here on YouTube is loose style, in painting. I also can do detailed paintings, realistic paintings, and technical drawings of buildings because I'm an architect. But I'm not doing that because it takes really long time to do tutorials of those. But if you want me to, you can also request, and let's see if many people are interested. I can, try to make some tutorials that are more technical and detailed. Anyway, I think we're ready to start, and if you have questions regarding our process, please just ask me at the comment box, and I'll be trying to respond as soon as I can. By the way, the colors that I have chosen for the sample painting are Gamboge, Vermilion, Deep Green, Ultramarine Blue, and Burnt Sienna. I can actually live with just these 5 colors. And to finish this, allow me to please use white for the highlights. I'm not mixing it with other colors. I'm just gonna be using it to show, areas where there are strong lightings. That's where I only use white usually. So I think we're done. Now our sample painting is dry. We can now remove our tape. Now we can have a closer look. When it comes to the color selection, I think I'm okay with this. So let's take a look at all the colors. First, they have 1 white, 2 yellows, 1 orange, 3 reds, 1 violet, 3 blues, 3 greens, 3 earth colors, and a black. So that's okay, really okay for me. But if I need to change 1 color here, I think I'd remove light green and would be happier to have an English red or an Indian red because I don't use this kind of green a lot, and I would need something that I would use for bricks and tegulas. Now when it comes to the vibrance and saturation, for the price, I think this is tolerable, this is okay. But I feel that the Art Ranger watercolors are better, also from Magi-Wap, when it comes to that aspect. When it comes to the flow and mixability of colors, I think it needs help in that aspect, but I was able, I think, to manage it in our sample painting. My main issue in this set are the following. I have 2. First is it's hard to mix a very deep gray because the colors are not that pigmented. Number 2 is transparency or opacity. Okay, let's go to number 1. It's hard to mix a gray or a deep gray color here. I have mentioned earlier, yes, that it's vibrant enough for the price, but not pigmented enough for you to be able to easily get a very deep gray color. And the reason for that is it's not very pigmented and it has lots of fillers. But I did my very best to get a very deep gray by mixing burnt sienna and ultramarine blue, and I was able to achieve this. But you are gonna achieve this by mixing a very solid mixture, I mean less water. But if you're gonna do that, you are at risk to getting muddy colors. So please be careful. Avoid mixing too many colors, especially this set is very opaque. So that's the issue number 2, the opacity or the transparency, because as you can see, most of the colors are semi-opaque and opaque, even those colors which are not expected to be opaque. So which are those colors? Those are the earth colors. When it was wet, It was weird. It was more on the transparent side, but when it dried, it turned more opaque. So these browns, I don't know if you see it clearly from the camera, they're now semi-opaque. These colors are not usually opaque. Yellow ochre is usually opaque, so it's acceptable. Grass green or sap green is not usually opaque, but here it's like a chromium green oxide. It's very opaque. Light green, as suspected, it has white, so it's very opaque. Even deep green, which is I suspect a phthalo green, is also very opaque. Cerulean blue is also semi-opaque. Even Prussian blue, I don't know if you see that, it's also semi-opaque. Ultramarine is not. Violet is not. Rose red is also more on the transparent side. All the colors in the first line are semi-opaque, as you can see. Since most of the colors in this set are opaque, you are very prone to making muddy mixes. So to avoid that, I think limit your mixes to 2 or 3 colors only. Or if you can't avoid that, just make light washes so that your mixes will not be muddy. So now for our chalky test, let's rub a piece of tissue paper against our painting, and if we get colors here, then that means it's chalky, or if we miss the white part of our paper, that's chalky. So let's begin. Let's rub just one side. So I think we got some, yeah, it's not clean anymore, but I think the chalkiness is not very high as compared to the Best Buy and Dong A. So vibrancy, saturation is okay. Flow and mixability is okay, but needs bit help. Transparency, opacity, it's more on the opaque side. Another issue is it's hard to make dark grays because the colors are not very pigmented. Now we have come to our favorite part, which is the comparison portion, and let's begin with a set of paints that are less performing as compared to the basics watercolors. So let's begin with the bottom 8. Let's begin with the Best Buy watercolors, Symbolion watercolors, Dong A Creative. Obviously these 3 are very chalky and very light in saturation. Next we have Sterling Arts watercolors, your Joni watercolor cakes, Faber-Castell solid watercolors, Sakura Koi pocket filled sketchbox, and Reeves watercolors. Our next set of paints are the sets that are very much comparable to the basics watercolors. They're not the same when it comes to performance, but my satisfaction are very, very comparable and similar. So let's start with the Faber-Castell. I think the Faber-Castell are more transparent generally, but I think I prefer the texture of basics. Mary's watercolors, generally they're more transparent. I think I prefer the Mary's watercolor half pans. Mary's watercolors in tubes, yeah, I prefer the Mary's watercolors in tubes, but I was turned off by the color selection in this set, so yeah, but I think the paints are better. Now Pebeo Studio watercolors, I think both are very much on the opaque side, and the intensity are also very comparable, so I think this is a draw. Now we have Pentel watercolors. I think the opacity is also very comparable, the vibrance is also very much the same, so I think this can be also a draw. But sometimes the deciding factor is the price and availability, so you have to weigh also your options. And of course, last but not the least in this group is the Art Rangers watercolors, which is also from Magi-Wap. Let's compare them closely. Let's see the lemon yellow. Lemon yellow of Art Ranger is more vibrant. The yellow ochre of Art Ranger is more transparent and even more vibrant. Vermilion vibrancy is the same, but the transparency is better in Art Ranger. The crimson red, transparency and vibrancy wise, Art Ranger is better. Ultramarine blue of Art Ranger is better. Prussian blue, these are not the same color, but the Prussian blue of Art Ranger is more accurate. This is more of a turquoise color. Deep green, I prefer the deep green of Magi-Wap, but The deep green of Art Ranger is more transparent. Grass green, this is a huge difference. Grass green of Art Ranger is more transparent and is closer to the real grass green color. The grass green of Magi-Wap Basics is really opaque, so that's really disappointing. Burnt Sienna of Art Ranger is also better, intensity and transparency white, and that's the same with the Burnt Umber. The black though of Magi-Wap Basics is, I think, darker. So what else do we have? White, they're pretty much the same. So I think the Art Ranger watercolors are better. And it's weird because I was expecting these two to be just the same paints, just repackaged version of the paints from Magi-Wap, but they're totally different. I think Art Ranger is better. Our next set of paints are some school grade paints and student grade paints that are better to basics watercolors. Most of these are very affordable and very much available online. So let's begin with the Prang Watercolors. Prang Watercolors 2007. The Superior Fan Palette, Superior Half Pans, Semi Art Semi-Dry Watercolors, Semi Art Solid Watercolors 50 colors set, Semi Art Arts Arch Watercolors, Miyahime Solid Watercolors, and the Koh-i-Noor Anilinki Brilliant Watercolors. Our next set of paints are our most trusted and reliable student grade paints that provide pigment code information and light fastness rating, and of course these paints perform better as compared to the basics watercolors. So let's have Sonnet Watercolors, Winsor Newton Cotman, and the Van Gogh 20 new colors and Van Gogh 12+3 half pans. Our next set of paints are the most reliable sets in our collection. These are the artist grade paints, so of course these are better as compared to the basics watercolors. This is just for your visual comparison. So let's begin with the Kukuyo Kamlin watercolors from India, the Lucas Aquarel 1862, the Prima Marketing Tropicals, the Maris Masters watercolors, Paul Rubens watercolors, Mongyo Professional watercolors, Winsor & Newton Professional, Egal Yohani watercolors, Holbein Artist watercolors, Holbein Botanical Art watercolors, Mijello Pure Pigment 26, Mijello Mission Gold Class, White Nights watercolors in tubes, White Nights watercolors in full pans, Rembrandt Luxury Pocket Box Set, Daniel Smith Extra Fine Sticks, and of course Daniel Smith Ultimate Mixing Set. So now, if you're gonna ask me would I recommend the Magi-Wap's Basics watercolors, my answer is yes. If first you're a kid trying to learn watercolors for the first time, and two, if you are a school kid doing some school projects that don't require to be light fast, or if you're not planning to hang these paintings and if you don't care them fading over time, this is okay because the colors are not bad, they're workable, and it's very affordable and available, at least here in the Philippines. But if you are a serious artist who is aspiring to be a professional artist someday, I think it is better to get better paints than this, more reliable paints than this. If the budget is really hard to manage, I think you can choose some of the cheapest student grade paints like Sonnet watercolors, or you can also just get the 12 colors of White Nights Professional watercolors. Those will really go a long way, and your artworks are safer, and I think it's easier to learn if your colors are higher in quality, and also they're more transparent, they're more pigmented. A little paint goes a long way, so economically wise, they're better choice. And please, if you are planning to sell your artworks, please choose your paints very well. Be responsible, because you do not want your paintings to fade under your client's hands. It's very disappointing, not just to you but also to your client, so please be considerate and responsible. I think we're done. I think that's all for the Magi-Wap's Basics watercolors. If you have any suggestions, comments, and questions, just keep them coming and I'll be responding as soon as I can. If you are not subscribed yet, please do subscribe to show support to this channel. Please don't forget also to like and share this video. Again, thank you for watching and see you again next week.